The distress signal came through at 0300 hours, when most of the ship was asleep. Commander Daniel Cross sat in his small cabin reading old mission reports when the alert lit up his screen. He read the message twice before he understood what it meant. Meridian 7 Station was dying. 2 million refugees from two species that had been killing each other for 300 years were trapped between two fleets. Both fleets wanted the station destroyed. Neither cared about the people inside. Daniel walked to the bridge and found Lieutenant Lisa Vance already there. She had dark circles under her eyes and a cup of cold coffee in her hand. She looked at him and shook her head. "Command says it is low priority," she said. "They say we should let the locals handle it." "The locals are the ones trying to blow it up," Daniel replied. He sat in his chair and pulled up the sector map. The Valen Reach spread across his screen like a wound in space. 300 years of war between the Karvathi Empire and the Silrani Collective had turned this whole region into a graveyard. Broken ships floated between dead worlds. Entire planets had been burned to nothing, and nobody remembered why the war started. Lisa handed him a file. "I found something interesting. Both species have legends about beings called the Flame Bearers, ancient warriors who ended a great war long ago." Daniel read through the stories. The Flame Bearers were described as spirits of fire who walked through plasma storms and carried the wounded to safety. They brought peace to the Valen Reach and then disappeared. "These are human descriptions," Daniel said quietly. Lisa nodded. "I think the Flame Bearers were Terran peacekeepers from the early expansion era, before humanity pulled back from this sector." Daniel closed the file. Somewhere out there, 2 million people were waiting to die, and both species prayed to legends that they did not know were human. He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is Commander Cross. We have a new mission. Report to the briefing room in 30 minutes. The briefing room was small and crowded when the team arrived. Sergeant Kevin Park leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. He was a big man with a calm face, but Daniel had seen him carry wounded soldiers for miles without stopping. Corporal Amy Dawson sat in the front row with her medical kit on her lap. She was always ready, always prepared. Private First Class Ryan Torres stood near the door, already thinking about escape routes and defensive positions. Daniel explained the situation. He showed them the station, the fleets, the refugees. He told them about the Flame Bearers. Kevin spoke first. "So we are going to fly into the middle of a 300-year war and tell everyone to stop fighting?" "Yes," Daniel said. "And if they do not listen, then we make them listen." Amy raised her hand. "What about the refugees? Do we have enough supplies for a rescue operation?" "We have enough for emergency aid," Daniel replied. "But the goal is to stop the fighting before the station is destroyed." Ryan had been quiet, studying the tactical displays. "The Karvathi fleet has 47 ships. The Silrani have 52. We have 1 ship and 5 soldiers." "I know the numbers," Daniel said. "Just making sure you do, sir." Lisa pulled up the historical records she had found. Both species believe in the Flame Bearer legends. Both species are waiting for them to return. If we can prove that humans were the original Flame Bearers, we might be able to use that belief. Kevin shook his head. "You want us to pretend to be gods?" "Not gods," Lisa said. "Just legends." "There is a difference." Daniel stood and looked at his team. They were tired. They had been fighting small battles across the frontier for 2 years. They had lost friends. They had seen things that nobody should see. But they were still here. They were still willing to walk into fire. "I am not ordering anyone to come," he said. "This mission is volunteer only. If you want to stay on the ship, I will understand." Nobody moved. Kevin smiled slowly. "You really think we would let you have all the fun?" Amy closed her medical kit with a click. "Someone has to keep you alive." Ryan shrugged. I have never seen a 300-year war before. Could be interesting. Lisa was already heading for the door. I will prepare the communication protocols. We need to be ready to broadcast on all frequencies. Daniel felt something warm in his chest. Pride, gratitude, hope. All right, he said. Let us go save 2 million people. The ship jumped to faster than light speed and crossed 3 sectors in 6 hours. When they dropped back to normal space, the Valen Reach spread before them like a sea of broken dreams. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. Warning beacons marked the locations of destroyed ships. The radiation levels were so high that their shields flickered. And there, in the middle of it all, was Meridian-7. The station was old and ugly and falling apart. It had been built as a trading post 2 centuries ago, before the war grew too violent for commerce. Now it was a refugee camp. Lights flickered in its windows. Small ships clustered around its docking ports like children hiding behind their mother. On one side, the Kolvathi fleet waited. Their ships were angular and dark, built for war and nothing else. On the other side, the Silrani fleet waited. Their ships were curved and silver, beautiful and deadly. Both fleets were moving closer. Lisa checked her instruments. They will be in firing range in 4 hours. Daniel opened a channel to the station. Meridian-7, this is Commander Daniel Cross of the Terran Coalition. We are here to help. Please respond. Static filled the channel. Then a voice came through, old and tired and afraid. Terrans? We thought your kind had forgotten about us. Daniel leaned forward. We remember. And we are not going to let you die. He closed the channel and looked at his team. 4 hours to stop a war. 4 hours to become legends. Let us get to work, he said. The docking bay of Meridian-7 smelled like fear and old metal. Daniel led his team through the airlock and into a crowd of faces that looked at them with confusion and suspicion. Kolvathi stood on one side, tall and scaled with 4 arms each. Silrani stood on the other side, pale and slender with eyes that glowed soft blue. Neither group would look at the other. A station guard approached them. He was Kolvathi, old and scarred from many battles. Terrans, he said slowly. We have not seen your kind in this sector for a very long time. We heard you needed help, Daniel replied. The guard laughed, but there was no joy in it. Help? 2 fleets are coming to destroy us. What can 5 humans do against 100 ships? We will figure that out, Daniel said. For now, we need to see the station and talk to your leaders. The guard shrugged and led them into the station. Meridian-7 was worse inside than it looked from outside. The walls were cracked. The lights flickered every few seconds. Water dripped from broken pipes. And everywhere, refugees huddled in small groups, waiting for death. Kevin walked beside Daniel. This place is falling apart. It has been holding refugees for 50 years, Daniel said. It was not built for this. They passed through the Kolvathi section first. Families sat on thin blankets spread across the floor. Children played quiet games in corners. Old people stared at nothing with empty eyes. Then Kevin stopped. He was looking at a group of Kolvathi children playing with small figures made of wire and cloth. They moved the figures through imaginary flames, making sounds of explosions and rescue. What are they playing? Kevin asked the guard. The Flame Bearer game, the guard said. All children play it. They pretend to be the ancient warriors who saved our ancestors. Kevin knelt beside the children. One of them held up a figure for him to see. It was shaped like a human. The Flame Bearers looked like us? Kevin asked. The child nodded eagerly. They walked through fire. They carried the wounded. They were not afraid of anything. Kevin looked at Daniel. Neither of them spoke, but they understood each other. The legends were real. The legends were human. And now these children were waiting for legends to save them again. Amy had separated from the group to visit the Silrani medical area. When she arrived, the Silrani doctors looked at her with cold distrust. "We do not need Terran help," one of them said. Amy ignored him and walked to a bed where a young Silrani female lay with burns covering half her body. The doctors had done what they could, but they lacked supplies. "I have burn treatment in my kit," Amy said. "May I help her?" The doctors exchanged looks. Finally, one of them stepped aside. Amy worked for an hour. She cleaned the wounds, applied medicine, and wrapped the burns with careful hands. When she finished, the young female opened her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "What is your name?" Amy asked. "Vera." "You're going to be fine, Vera. Rest now." Amy stood and found the Silrani doctors watching her with different eyes. Not warm, not yet, but no longer cold. "You asked for nothing," one of them said. "No payment. No alliance. Just help. That is what humans do," Amy said simply. Meanwhile, Lisa had found the station archives. They were located in a small room filled with old computers and older books. Dust covered everything. She began searching for records of the flame bearers. An old voice spoke from behind her. "You will not find much in the official records." Lisa turned. Two figures stood in the doorway. One was a Kovathi male, ancient and bent with age. The other was a Silrani female, blind and leaning on a staff. "I am Elder Varth," the Kovathi said. "This is Elder Silith. We have spent our lives studying the old legends." Lisa invited them to sit. "Tell me about the flame bearers." Varth spoke first. 312 years ago, our peoples went to war. The fighting spread across the entire sector. Billions died. Worlds burned. Silith continued in a soft voice. Then the flame bearers came. They were outsiders, not Korvathi, not Silrani. They walked into the burning fields of Vela Prime, where the weapons had created storms of plasma that never ended. "No one could survive those storms," Vorith said. But the flame bearers walked through them. They carried wounded soldiers from both sides to safety. They showed our peoples that we could choose peace instead of death. And then they left, Silith finished. They disappeared and never returned. We have been waiting for them ever since. Lisa felt her heart beating faster. "Do you know what the flame bearers look like?" Vorith reached into his robe and pulled out an ancient drawing. It showed a figure in a strange suit, walking through flames, carrying two bodies. The figure had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a helmet that covered its face. It was clearly human. "We always wondered where they came from," Vorith said. "Now I think we know." Lisa took the drawing carefully. "I need to show this to my commander." She found Daniel in the central hub, staring at tactical displays that showed the 2 fleets getting closer. She handed him the drawing without speaking. Daniel studied it for a long moment. Then he looked up at Lisa. "How long until the fleets are in range?" 2 hours. Daniel turned to his team. Kevin, Amy, and Ryan had gathered around him. They all looked at the ancient drawing of a human walking through fire. "The original flame bearers ended a war by walking into the Inferno," Daniel said slowly. "If we want to end this war, we need to do the same thing." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You want us to walk through plasma storms?" "I want us to show both fleets that the legends are real, that humans have returned, that we are willing to do what no one else will do." Kevin smiled grimly. "I always wanted to be a legend." Amy checked her medical supplies. "How long can our suits survive in a plasma storm?" "About 40 minutes, Lisa said. "Then we have 40 minutes to save the galaxy," Daniel replied. "Let us not waste them." The shuttle dropped through the atmosphere of Vela Prime like a stone falling into hell. Outside the windows, the sky burned orange and red. Lightning cracked across clouds of toxic gas. The entire planet had been on fire for 3 centuries. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat, fighting the controls. The winds tried to throw them off course. The heat made the instruments flicker, but he kept the shuttle steady. Behind him, his team prepared for what came next. Kevin checked his weapon one more time. He did not expect to use it, but he always checked. Amy loaded her medical kit with burn treatments and emergency supplies. Ryan studied the terrain maps, looking for any path through the firestorms. Lisa activated the broadcast equipment that would send their video to both fleets. "Broadcast is ready," Lisa said. "Every ship in both fleets will see everything we do." "Good," Daniel said. "Let them watch." The shuttle landed in a valley between 2 walls of fire. The ground was black and cracked. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived here. The air outside was poison, and the temperature was hot enough to cook flesh in minutes. Daniel stood and faced his team. "Our suits will protect us for about 40 minutes. After that, the heat will start getting through. We need to move fast. What exactly are we looking for?" Ryan asked. "Survivors. The old records say soldiers from both sides were stranded here during the original war. If anyone is still alive, they will be in the deepest valleys where the storms are weakest." Kevin laughed shortly. "You think people have been living on this burning rock for 300 years? I think we will find out." They opened the airlock and stepped onto Vela Prime. The heat hit them immediately, even through their suits. Daniel felt sweat running down his back within seconds. Each breath came a little harder. Each step took more effort than the last. Lisa activated her camera. "Broadcast is live. Both fleets are watching." Far above them, in the cold darkness of space, Kovathi and Silrani soldiers stared at their screens in disbelief. 5 humans were walking across the surface of a world that nothing could survive. 5 humans were doing what the legend said only the flame-bearers could do. Admiral Draven of the Kovathi fleet stood on his bridge with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. He had commanded warships for 60 years. He had seen every kind of battle, but he had never seen anything like this. "What are they doing?" his second officer asked. "They are proving something," Draven said quietly. On the Silrani flagship, Matriarch Celine watched the same images. Her glowing eyes reflected the fire on the screen. She remembered the stories her mother had told her about the flame-bearers. She had always thought they were just stories. Now she was not sure. On the surface, Daniel led his team deeper into the firestorms. The flames rose around them like living walls. The ground shook with constant explosions from pockets of gas igniting underground. Twice, they had to change course when rivers of molten rock blocked their path. Ryan moved ahead, scouting the safest routes. He came back with news. "There is a valley about 2 kilometers north. The thermal readings are lower there. If anyone survived, that is where they would be." "Lead the way," Daniel said. They pushed forward. 20 minutes passed. The suits began to strain against the heat. Warning lights flickered on Amy's display, telling her that her cooling system was working at maximum. Then Kevin stopped and pointed. Movement. On the ridge. They all looked. Through the flames and smoke, shapes were moving. Not the random movement of fire, but the deliberate movement of living beings. "Stay alert," Daniel said. "We do not know if they are friendly." They approached slowly. The shapes resolved into figures, humanoid but different. Some had 4 arms. Some had glowing eyes. Kovathi and Silrani, standing together, watching the Terrans approach. An old Kovathi male stepped forward. He wore makeshift armor built from salvaged ship parts. His scales were scarred and burned, but his eyes were clear. "We saw your ship land," he said. "We have been watching from the hills." We did not believe it at first. "No one comes to Vela Prime." "We are Terrans," Daniel said. "We came to help." The old Kovathi stared at him. Behind him, the other survivors gathered. Kovathi and Silrani stood side by side, some holding hands, some holding children who looked like neither species, and both at the same time. Terrans, the old male repeated. The flame bearers. You know the legends? Know them? We are the children of those the flame bearers saved. 300 years ago, your ancestors carried our ancestors out of the fire. We have been waiting for you to return. Lisa was recording everything. Millions of soldiers watched as humans met the survivors of Vela Prime. They watched Kovathi and Silrani living together in peace, the only place in the galaxy where that happened. Daniel looked at the group. There were maybe 200 people, thin and weathered but alive. They had built a community in the only place no one else would go. We're going to get you out of here, Daniel said. All of you. The old Kovathi shook his head slowly. That is kind, but the fleets will never accept us. We are traitors to both sides. We chose peace over war, and our people have hated us for it. The fleets are watching right now, Daniel said. They can see you. They can see that you survived, that you built something here. Let us give them a chance to do better. The old male looked at his people, the mixed families, the children who had never known war, the elderly who had chosen love over hate. Very well, he said. We will trust the flame bearers one more time. Daniel checked his suit timer. They had 18 minutes left. Everyone follow us. Stay close. Move fast. He led them back through the fire. 200 survivors followed 5 humans across a burning world. The cameras broadcast every step to the waiting fleets, and slowly, one by one, ships in both fleets began powering down their weapons. The ground erupted without warning. A geyser of superheated gas exploded from a crack in the rock, and Kevin threw himself in front of a young Silrani child. The blast hit his suit directly. He screamed as the outer layer melted and heat burned through to his skin. Amy was at his side in seconds. She pulled him away from the vent and checked his suit. The damage was severe. Half the thermal protection on his back was gone. I can seal it, she said quickly, but it will not hold for long. Kevin gritted his teeth against the pain. How long? Maybe 10 minutes. They had 12 minutes of travel left to reach the shuttle. Daniel made a decision without hesitating. Give me your pack, Kevin. I will carry it. I can still walk. I know you can. But you are not carrying anything except yourself. The young Silrani child that Kevin had saved was crying. Her mother, a Kovathi female with gentle eyes, knelt beside her. He saved my daughter, she said to Daniel. Why? He does not know us. He does now, Daniel replied. They kept moving. The survivors helped each other over rough terrain. Old Kovathi warriors carried young Silrani children. Mixed families supported each other through the flames. They had lived together for 3 generations. They knew how to survive. Ryan ran ahead to scout the path. He came back with bad news. The route we came is blocked. Lava flow cut across it 5 minutes ago. Alternate path? There is one, but it goes through a plasma pocket. The storms will be worse. Daniel looked at his team. Kevin was barely standing. Amy was supporting him with one arm. Lisa was recording everything while helping an elderly Silrani walk. Ryan looked exhausted but ready. We go through the plasma pocket, Daniel said. The old Kovathi survivor stepped forward. There is another way. Through the underground tunnels. We use them when the storms are at their worst. Will everyone fit? Yes, follow me. The old male led them to a crack in a cliff face that opened into a cave system. The temperature dropped immediately. The air was still toxic, but the heat was bearable. The survivors moved faster now, following paths they knew by heart. In space, Admiral Draven watched the broadcast with growing disbelief. The humans had found survivors on Vela Prime, survivors who had been there for 3 centuries. and among them, he saw faces that he recognized. "Zoom in on that young male," he ordered. The image enlarged. A Kovathi male in his 20s stood near the Terran commander. He had the same facial markings as Draven himself. The same pattern that had been in his family for generations. "No," Draven whispered. "It cannot be." 20 years ago, his son had been lost in a raid over Vela Prime. His ship had been shot down. There were no survivors. Draven had mourned him every day since. But here he was, alive, standing beside Silrani as if they were family. On the Silrani flagship, Matriarch Selene had her own moment of recognition. An old Silrani female walked near the back of the survivor group. She was blind now, leaning on a staff, but her face was unmistakable. Solara, Selene breathed. Her sister. Lost 40 years ago when her diplomatic shuttle was destroyed over Vela Prime. Dead for 4 decades. Except she was not dead. She was alive, walking beside Korvathi, being helped by a mixed child who called her grandmother. The tunnel opened into another valley. The shuttle was visible in the distance, still safe, still waiting. But between them and the shuttle, a wall of flame blocked the path. Kevin's suit warning alarm started screaming. His thermal protection had failed completely. He could feel the heat burning his skin through the damaged sections. "Go," he said through clenched teeth. "Get the survivors to the shuttle. I will catch up." "No one gets left behind," Daniel said. He grabbed Kevin and lifted him onto his back. 200 pounds of soldiering gear, added to his own exhaustion and the weight of leadership. Daniel did not care. He started walking. Amy ran beside him, injecting painkillers into Kevin's suit port. Ryan took point, finding the safest path through the flames. Lisa kept recording, kept broadcasting, kept showing the galaxy what humans would do for people they had just met. The survivors followed. They had seen many things in their centuries on Vela Prime, but they had never seen someone carry a wounded friend through fire, rather than leave him behind. The shuttle was 200 meters away when the ground began to shake. A new eruption was building directly ahead. Ryan stopped and calculated the odds. "We have maybe 90 seconds before that blows." Daniel looked at the shuttle. Ogneel looked at the shuttle. 200 meters. 90 seconds. 200 survivors and one man who could barely walk. "Run," he said. They ran. The survivors poured across the burning ground toward the shuttle. Parents carried children. The young helped the old. Kevin managed to get off Daniel's back and stumbled forward on his own legs, refusing to slow anyone down. Amy reached the shuttle first and threw open the doors. "Everyone inside. Move, move." Bodies poured through the airlock. Kovathi and Silrani pushed together, not caring about old hatreds, only caring about survival. The ground shook harder. The eruption was coming. Ryan stood at the shuttle door, counting survivors as they passed. 50, 100, 150. Daniel grabbed the last few survivors and shoved them toward the door. An old Silrani stumbled and fell. He picked her up and carried her the final steps. 200, Ryan shouted. "Everyone is in." Daniel threw himself through the door as the eruption blew. Fire and rock exploded behind them. The shuttle shook but held. The door sealed shut. They had made it. Inside the crowded shuttle, Kevin lay on the floor while Amy treated his burns. The survivors pressed together, breathing hard, crying, laughing. They were leaving Vela Prime for the first time in 300 years. Lisa checked her equipment. The broadcast is still live. Both fleets are watching. Daniel nodded slowly. Good, because now comes the hard part. On the Kovathi flagship, Admiral Draven stood motionless. His son was alive. His son had been living with Silrani. His son had chosen peace. On the Silrani flagship, Matriarch Selene wept for the first time in 40 years. Her sister had survived. Her sister had built a family with the enemy. Both commanders reached for their communication controls at the same moment. Both wanted to demand the survivors be returned, and neither knew that the other was about to do the same thing. The shuttle docked at Meridian 7 station to the sound of cheering. Refugees from both species lined the corridors, watching as 200 survivors walked off a burning world and into the light. Children reached out to touch them. Adults wept openly. Daniel stepped off the shuttle last. He was exhausted beyond words, his muscles aching, his mind foggy from stress and heat. But he kept walking because there was still work to do. Lisa caught up with him. "We have a problem. Both fleets are demanding we surrender the survivors. The Kovathi want their people back. The Silrani want theirs. Neither will accept the mixed families. Then neither gets anyone," Daniel said. Before Lisa could respond, an alarm rang through the station. 2 ships were approaching the docking bay. 1 Kovathi, 1 Silrani. Both were command vessels. Admiral Draven and Matriarch Selene had come to claim their own. Daniel gathered his team and walked to the main docking bay. The survivors followed behind him, refusing to be separated. They had lived together for 300 years. They would not be torn apart now. The 2 command ships docked on opposite sides of the bay. Airlocks opened simultaneously. Admiral Draven stepped out from one side, tall and imposing in his military uniform. Matriarch Selene emerged from the other, graceful and cold, her glowing eyes fixed on the crowd. They saw each other and stopped. For a long moment, the 2 commanders who had spent their careers trying to destroy each other stood face to face in the same room. Then they both saw the survivors. Draven's son stepped forward from the crowd. He was holding hands with a Silrani female. 2 children stood beside them, mixed children with scales and glowing eyes. "Father," he said simply. Draven could not speak. 20 years of grief, 20 years of rage, 20 years of blaming the Silrani for his son's death. And here was his son, alive, married to one of them, raising children with her. On the other side of the bay, Selene's sister walked forward slowly. The blind old female moved with careful steps, guided by a young Kovathi who called her grandmother. "Hello, sister," Solara said. "You look older." Selene let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "I thought you were dead. I was reborn. We all were. On that burning world, we learned that we did not have to hate each other." Daniel stepped between the 2 groups. "These people are under Terran protection. They are refugees, not prisoners. You cannot take them against their will." Draven turned to him with anger in his eyes. "That is my son, my blood. He belongs with his people. His people are right here," Daniel said, gesturing to the mixed families. "Look at them, Admiral. Really look. 300 years ago, your ancestors tried to kill each other. But these people chose to live together instead. They chose love over hate. Their children have never known war." Selene spoke coldly. "Pretty words, human. But this war is not your concern. We have been fighting for 3 centuries. We will continue fighting until one side wins. Why?" The question hung in the air. Both commanders stared at Daniel. "Why do you fight?" he asked again. "Do you even remember how this war started?" Silence. Neither commander could answer. Amy stepped forward. She held a medical report in her hands. "While we were on Vela Prime, I scanned the survivors. All of them, Kovathi and Silrani both. I found something interesting." She activated a holographic display. 2 genetic sequences appeared side by side. These are the base genetics of both species. Look at them. 73% identical. You share the same ancestor species. Somewhere in the ancient past, you were one people. The implications spread through the room like ripples in water. 300 years of war. Billions of dead. Worlds burned to ash. And the whole time, they had been killing their own distant family. Elder Vorith stepped out of the crowd. He carried the ancient drawing of the flame bearer walking through fire. 300 years ago, humans came to our worlds and showed us that peace was possible. Then they left, and we forgot. We forgot that we did not have to hate. We forgot that the legends were real. Elder Silas stood beside him, her blind eyes somehow finding the two commanders. Now the flame bearers have returned. They walked through the Inferno again. They carried the wounded again. They brought two peoples together again. The question is whether we will remember this time. Draven's son walked toward his father. I do not ask you to understand my choices. I only ask you to meet your grandchildren. He gestured to the two mixed children hiding behind their mother. Slowly, carefully, they stepped forward. One had her grandfather's facial markings. The other had her grandmother's gentle eyes. Draven knelt. For the first time in 60 years of war, the admiral of the Korvathi fleet got on his knees. His grandchildren looked at him with curiosity, not fear. "Hello," the older one said. "Are you the grandfather from the stories?" "I suppose I am," Draven said quietly. Across the bay, Celine was holding her sister's hands. They were speaking in low voices, 40 years of separation compressed into whispered words. Daniel watched it all. Kevin stood beside him, bandaged but alive. Amy smiled for the first time in days. Ryan allowed himself to relax. Lisa kept recording, capturing this moment for history. "Commander," Admiral Draven said, standing slowly, "I believe we need to discuss terms." "For what?" Daniel asked. "For peace." Selene nodded from across the bay. "My sister has shown me what is possible. I would like to see if her example can spread." Daniel felt the weight of the moment. Two fleets waited in space. 2 million refugees waited on the station. Two species who had forgotten why they fought, waited for someone to show them another way. "We can help with negotiations," Daniel said. "But the peace has to come from you. We can walk through fire for you. We can carry you out of the Inferno. But only you can choose to stop fighting." Draven and Selene looked at each other. Two enemies who had never spoken except through weapons. Two leaders who had lost family to this war and found them again. Draven extended one of his 4 arms. Selene reached out her pale hand. They shook. The refugees of Meridian 7 erupted in cheers. The children of Vela Prime wept with joy. And 5 exhausted humans stood in the middle of it all. Too tired to celebrate, but too proud to rest. Later, as the first formal ceasefire in 300 years was being signed, the children of both species gathered around Kevin. They brought him drawings of fire spirits and healing warriors. They called him a flame bearer. They asked him to tell stories of Earth. Lisa recorded a final message to Terran Command. Mission successful. Ceasefire achieved. Sometimes the best thing humanity can do is remind the galaxy that legends are not about power. They are about the simple courage to walk into fire for someone else. Daniel stood at the station window, watching the two fleets slowly reorganize into one combined formation. His team joined him one by one. "What now?" Ryan asked. "Now we go home," Daniel said. "And we hope they remember this time. And if they forget again?" Daniel smiled tiredly. "Then we come back." That is what flamebearers do. The Terran shuttle departed Meridian 7 station as the sun rose over a new era. Behind them, two species who had been enemies for 3 centuries sat down together to learn how to be family again. And somewhere in the galaxy, other peoples looked up at the stars and whispered about the humans who walked through fire. The legend was spreading. The flame bearers had returned.